After we got done with Avengers Arena, which was the Marvel doing Battle Royale and kind of weeding out all of their younger heroes, it did do one thing right. It empowered Arcade, so classic villain, and Marvel doesn't do enough of this. So while Avengers Arena was disliked by many, including myself, I did like what they did with Arcade. They brought a villain and they gave some more credibility and credence to that villain, which is good. Villains need to be threatening. But the follow-up to Avengers Arena was Avengers Undercover. And this was the second part, and this was what is the aftermath of what happens. Let's get into that. Hey everybody, this is Perch, and in a normal world, this wouldn't be a new #1 issue. This would just be, Avengers Arena continuing. But both because relaunches are hip and successful and cool and wonderful, and we've got to do it every single time, more, and also because Avengers Arena, the Arena part was specifically all about this Battle Royale, Hunger Games type comic. Avengers Undercover is taking a different tack, and this is, basically picking up from where Avengers Arena left off. It would be a next issue in most cases, but be that as it may, why they didn't just leave Avengers Academy intact and just keep the comic going? Well, they got to relaunch. That's why, I guess. Anyway, so Avengers Arena ended basically with Arcade being defeated. The heroes kind of fighting for their lives, several dying, several people turning on each other and going for blood. So definitely some deaths, but more than one survived, which was nice. Superhero deathmatch, and the consequence at the very end. The footage was leaked, so all of these characters, all these young heroes that fought for their life and did despicable things in some cases, began to leak out to the world. And now the world has seen what Murder World gets into and what these heroes were had to do in order to survive. So here we are now in this post world. We move right into South Bend, Indiana, because whenever you got to do a small town kind of stuff, we got to go with Indiana. So Hazmat is kind of hanging out in a little diner, and certainly 3 months and over 2.5 billion YouTube views later, everyone is talking about Murder World, and Arcade is a household name. So he got what he wanted, notoriety, but also these heroes now are exposed. And so the heroes are all dealing with different ways. Chase is going off and giving interviews, and total P word is what the fans think of Chase. He's loyal and hot. Yeah, that's how kids talk when they're eating burgers. Anyway, it's always funny in these drawings, by the way, the dialogue that you get when they're trying to do normal people at the Burger Shack hanging out is like, this is not how people talk. And I also like how it's like the artist, Kev Walker is great, by the way. No shade on Kev Walker. I think he's a unique style. I really liked what he did on Thunderbolts and all the rest. But they do this, like they have a normal looking person, and then they're like, well, we got to make them look hip and trendy and like a teen, so we'll just throw a piercing on the eyebrow here, and we'll just put that in there, and it's like, I don't know. I always feel like these people have not actually gone out into the world and looked to see what kids look like. But anyway, so the people are all kind of bashing Hazmat, and they're talking about how she's really cool or she's a babe, and this chick spits radish for fingerprints and fingertips. The only thing she accomplished 30 days getting most of her teammates dead, pathetic. And so she comes over, she confronts these kids, and she melts the table and presumably gives them all cancer. And so she's angry. So that's our opening. We go back to seeing Chase. Chase is living the life of a reality star, kind of mogul. And suddenly Nico shows up and she's angry too, and so the two of them have a little fight, and Nico is having a very hard time adjusting. Chase is kind of back and trying to at least keep the Runaways family together, but they're having a fight. And then we catch up with other members of the Arena team, like Death Locket, which was the Deathlock-ish cyborg girl who was part of, one of the breakout stars for Avengers Arena. She's getting kind of repaired, and the first boy I ever kissed is dead because of me. And then she wound up killing. In the story, she kind of fell in love, but then got mentally controlled and killed somebody. And and so it's like we're basically seeing that all these characters are having a very, very hard time adjusting, including Cami. Cami is she's been out in space and all kinds of crazy things going on, but she's in trouble, and she runs off away from her mom. And Cullen Bloodstone is here, and he was another breakout character, and he's basically starting to film reality kind of YouTube videos about how he's blowing up Arcade's house. He wasn't home, and so all these kids are having trouble. What's interesting about this is Avengers Academy was founded on these what if these characters went bad. And they really went through some nuance about how these characters will evolve and how they're going to react to this kind of stuff. And it took many, many issues to give them somewhat of a redemption arc, and they all had different forms of it. So in this book, we see that because of their exposure on reality TV, that they're basically traumatized from this event. The idea is they're dealing with PTSD of this island and so on. But they all gather back up in the Bloodstone Manor, and they're basically coming back together to say, hey, we need to figure out what to do. Cullen is out of control. Cullen Bloodstone is out of control, and he is wanting revenge, basically revenge on Arcade. He wants to settle the scores. So he films a little video of himself going into the capital city of Begalia. Begalia is something that was introduced in Rick Remender's run of Secret Avengers, home of Baron Zemo's Masters of Evil, and he's going to dive down into this hole, and there's a city down in the earth, basically. So off he goes. He's got PTSD. He goes and he's going to get some revenge. So we don't know exactly what's happened, but some time goes on, and we learn that basically this giant monster is attacking a SHIELD facility in Brazil, and we catch up with Baron Zemo and the Constrictor, who was another character in Avengers Avengers the Initiative that got some redemption. Here's Damian Hellstorm, and we see that maybe they've got Cullen Bloodstone has turned evil, and that's where the issue ends. Basically, that Baron Zemo has managed to flip him, and now these heroes are going to go deal with it. Okay, so what is this comic about? Well, it doesn't go very long. I think it goes for, I believe, 10 issues or so, maybe a little bit longer. No, 10 issues. That's as far as it goes. And the basic, what basically happens is most of the characters, and they catch up with a couple other members of the Avengers Academy group, which is nice, and many of them become back to heroes again. They go down and they pretend to work with Baron Zemo, and they're tempted by evil, but by and large, most of them do okay. They punch Baron Zemo and then kind of walk away for no apparent reason. They redeem themselves in the eyes of the heroes who believe they've gone bad. And in 10 issues, they try and wrap it up as best they can. Death Locket continues to stay evil. We see her later on, and a couple others. We introduce Alex from the Runaways, and then we kind of forget all about that later. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in this comic that post Secret Wars just gets kind of erased. They just kind of forget that a lot of this goes on, and in general, they forget overall that any of this has happened. These characters, it's such a weird arc. So Avengers Academy, you introduced characters like Hazmat. You have a lot of very interesting character development, and then you built them up, and then you kind of took it away in Avengers Arena, and you kind of built it up again here, and then you just forgot them entirely. So it's very odd. It's very odd to see the Constrictor, for example, which had a really interesting arc in Avengers Initiative. Gosh, too many Avengers titles. Where he had a relationship with Diamondback, and then he thought that she was going back to Steve, but she wasn't, and so he kind of went off with Taskmaster, and now here he is working with Baron Zemo. It's just there's a lot of pieces here that it kind of it takes away from a lot of the good work that was done. I think every now and then, not every now and then, I think Marvel on a regular basis actually does a really good job with some of their characters, and then they seem to either they get a new writer on, and it always feels to me like the writer didn't actually read the comics that came before, or they got a very weird impression of what the comic was supposed to be about. It always feels like they missed a big part of the point. What Nico was doing, the storyline with Alex and the Runaways and Chase, they do a lot in this series that Rainbow Rowell, when she took over Runaways, just kind of removed. Just so like we're going to move right past that and just go on to a new story, which in this case was probably a good thing, because this work was not not the best of how it all went down. So it is, again, very very oddball comic, and you see characters like Baron Zemo trying to build up a new Masters of Evil, and you go, man, comics could use this. Comics really need these characters right now. So it's a shame that why are we messing around with this stuff? Anyway, altogether strange, an interesting end. This would be the end of the experiment of Avengers Arena and wrecking the kids, and what would happen is we'd get done with Secret Wars, and then we'd start with the champions. We'd bring a whole new group to play around with. So why not, right? That's the way it goes. Anyway, did you like this issue? Again, there's people who are fans of it. I really like these characters, and I can appreciate what they were trying to do here. Certainly more than Avengers Arena definitely felt like a cash grab. It did not feel good. This comic, Avengers Undercover, it definitely there was a more interesting mandate, and I liked a lot of what they were trying to do here. It's just again, it's one of those cases. You probably heard me say this a lot during this run of Avengers videos. They tend to just drop stuff for no reason. They don't follow through. The other writers who are in theory are working with the shared community don't pay attention, and this is what you got. So it just feels like a lot of potential left on the table, and I think that's my message here. Whether you love the comic or you hated the comic, hopefully one thing we can all unify and rally around is that if you're going to do this stuff, if you're going to put the effort in, then you should follow through, and you should actually get some coordination. Otherwise, you're just throwing stories out into the wind, and as time goes by. It was fascinating for me when I did the Avengers Arena video, is how many people didn't know that comic existed, and that's the shame of it. If you're going to have this continuity, the shared universe, then you shouldn't have these pockets of people who just they miss it. That seems wrong somehow. But let me know what you think of this issue, this run, this whole bit in the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. Like, subscribe, introduce to a friend. Would really appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.